Have you ever been on a plane, or just looked up and seen one cutting across the sky and thought to yourself, how in the world is that thing staying up there? I mean, we're talking about a 500-ton metal tube thousands of feet in the air. It just doesn't seem right, does it? Well, today, we're going to crack that code. We're going to figure out how airplanes actually truly fly.
Seriously, it's a question that feels like it needs a magical answer, right? How does a machine that weighs as much as, I don't know, 100 elephants just float? It looks impossible. But here's the secret. It isn't magic. Nope, it's actually an invisible battle, a war being fought in the sky every single second a plane is up there.
You see, that's the thing. Flying isn't really about floating at all. It's more like a constant, high-stakes wrestling match between four powerful, invisible forces. And if you want to understand how a plane flies, you first have to understand these four opponents. Think of it like a four-way tug-of-war happening in the sky. When a plane is just cruising along nice and steady, all four of those forces are perfectly balanced. It's a stalemate. But the moment that plane needs to do anything, take off, climb higher, go faster, the pilot has to intentionally unbalance those forces, overpowering one to make the plane move. So, let's meet the players in this tug-of-war. You've got two main matchups. Vertically, you have lift trying to pull the plane up, fighting against weight, which is pulling it down. And horizontally, you've got thrust pushing the plane forward, battling against drag, which is trying to slow it down. It's these two opposing pairs, and the whole secret to flying is just managing this constant conflict.
All right, let's start with the easy one. The one we all know and feel every day, weight. This is just gravity, pure and simple. It's always there, constantly pulling that plane down towards the center of the Earth. It's the big, obvious enemy that every flight has to conquer right from the start.
And the hero of our story, the force that battles gravity, is lift. This is that magical upward force, generated mainly by the wings, that goes head-to-head with weight. Lift is the reason a plane gets off the runway in the first place and, stays in the air. Okay, moving on to our next player, thrust. This is the brute force, the raw power. It's that forward push coming from the engines, shoving the plane through the air. And you absolutely need that speed because without it, the wings can't generate any lift.
And who's fighting thrust every step of the way? That would be drag. The easiest way to think about drag is just as air friction. It's like this invisible wall of air that the plane is constantly smashing into, and it's always trying to slow the plane down.
So, okay, we've met the four forces: lift, weight, thrust, and drag. But where do they come from? Let's dive into the most amazing one first: lift. I mean, how does a simple wing, just a piece of metal, create enough force to pick up a 500-ton machine? Well, it turns out it's not just one thing. It's actually a tag team of two incredibly powerful physics principles. It's this really clever 1-2 punch. First, you've got the curved shape on top of the wing. Because it's curved, the air has to travel a little bit farther, so it speeds up. And this fast-moving air creates an area of low pressure, kind of like a gentle suction cup, pulling the wing up. That's a little something called Bernoulli's principle. But at the exact same time, the wing itself is angled slightly, so it's physically smacking air molecules and pushing them down. And as our good friend Newton told us, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So pushing air down pushes the wing up. You've got a pull from the top and a push from the bottom, both working together to create lift. How cool is that?
And you've totally felt this second part before, I'm sure you have. Next time you're in a car, just carefully stick your hand out the window and tilt it up slightly. You'll feel the air pushing your hand upwards, right? That's it. That's Newton's third law in action. A plane's wing is just doing that same exact thing, but on a much, much bigger scale.
Okay, but creating all that amazing lift is pretty useless if the plane is just sitting still on the ground. For those wings to do their thing, you need air rushing over them. And for that, you need to be moving forward. This brings us right into our second major battle, that horizontal tug-of-war between thrust and drag. So, how do planes get that all-important forward push? Well, there are basically two main ways to do it. You've got propellers, which are really just wings that spin around. They act like big screws, literally pulling the plane through the air. And then you have jet engines, which are, well, they're a lot more dramatic. They suck in a massive amount of air, squeeze it, set it on fire with fuel, and then blast the hot gas out the back, which shoots the plane forward. And the idea behind a super powerful jet engine is actually incredibly simple. Just picture a balloon that you've blown up but haven't tied. What happens when you let it go? Whoosh! The air rushes out the back, that's the action, and the balloon goes flying forward, that's the reaction. A jet engine is basically just a very, very powerful and very controlled version of that. Yep, it's Newton's third law making a comeback. All right, so what about drag? What's thrust fighting against? The absolute best way to get a feel for drag is to imagine running through a swimming pool. You feel how the water just pushes back against you, making it super hard to move fast? Well, air does the exact same thing to an airplane. Now, obviously, air is way thinner than water, but when you're moving at 500 miles per hour, that air resistance becomes a huge force. And that's exactly why planes are designed to be so sleek and pointy to cut through it.
Okay, so let's say we're winning the fight. We've got lift beating weight, thrust is beating drag, the plane is flying straight ahead. Awesome, but just flying in a straight line isn't very useful, is it? So how does a pilot actually steer this thing? A car just moves left and right, but a plane moves in 3 dimensions. Mastering that is where the real art of flying comes in.
So a plane can move in 3 different ways. It can roll from side to side, kind of like tilting, by using flaps on the wings called ailerons. That's how it banks into a turn. Then it can pitch its nose up or down, using elevators on the tail. That's for climbing and descending. And finally, it can yaw, which is just swinging its nose left to right, using the rudder, which is also on the tail. It's for making those little fine-tuning adjustments.
You know what? Let's actually try this. Stand up for a sec if you can. Come on, try it. Okay, stick your arms out like wings. Now lean your whole body to the left and right. See? You're rolling. Good. Now bend at the waist like you're diving down. And then lean way back like you're climbing up. That's pitch. And last, keep your feet planted and just twist your upper body to the left and right. That's yaw. See? You're basically an airplane now. All of this amazing science, it feels so normal to us now, right? But it wasn't just discovered overnight. It was painstakingly figured out by, get this, 2 bicycle mechanics from Ohio who were just completely obsessed with solving one of the oldest dreams of humankind.
The thing that made the Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville, so different wasn't just that they were brave. It was that they were methodical. They were bicycle makers, so they understood that balance and control were everything. So when their first gliders didn't work, they didn't just guess and try again. No, they went home, built their own wind tunnel, the first of its kind, and they tested over 200 different wing designs to see what actually worked. They used science to solve the problem.
And finally, on that famous day, December 17, 1903, after all that trial and error, Orville Wright flew. The flight lasted all of 12 seconds, and the distance he covered, a mere 120 feet.
Now to put that into perspective for you, and this is my favorite fact, that entire first flight, the one that changed the world forever, was shorter than the wingspan of a modern Boeing 747. Just think about that. The whole flight could happen within the width of one of today's planes. It is an absolutely incredible leap in technology in just a little over 100 years. So, the big takeaway here is this. Flight isn't a single event. It's a continuous, dynamic balancing act. The next time you look up and see a plane soaring overhead, remember what you're really seeing. It's not just a machine. It's an invisible war being won, a 4-way tug-of-war being mastered by a pilot in real time.
You know, the Wright brothers got their breakthrough ideas by watching birds, by studying how they twisted their wings to steer and glide. We literally learned to fly by copying nature. And it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? As our technology gets more and more advanced, what's the next big secret that nature is waiting to teach us?